All right, today we're going to dig into the quick play and quick battle system for War Room, a Larry Harris game. This is Tom from Nightingale Games, and here we go. This is an extra you can get from our store. It's called the Quick Battle Kit, and if you open it up, you'll get this. You'll get 2 dry erase boards, one for the Axis, one for the Allied forces, and on the front you can resolve land battles, and on the backs are battle boards for the naval battles. You can see the naval units here. So before we dive into that, I want to describe the difference between quick play and quick battle. So these are 2 independent systems which are optional, which can help speed up the game considerably. This is the 2nd edition Rulebook, and these optional rules are covered on the second to last page. As you can see, the quick play up here, and then on the back page, the quick battle. So first we're going to talk about the quick play. So you can see there's a chart up here in the top right corner, and depending on which scenario you're playing, each nation is going to have a different level of production. So there's production values. For the global, for example, China has 3, British Commonwealth has 7. I'll zoom in so you can see it. And that's how many dice you roll for production. And so that means you're going to ignore the resource income and all the territory cards during the first phase of the game when you're collecting income. You don't do any of that. And so it rapidly speeds up the game because you just skip that whole step. And everybody can, if you have enough dice, everybody can roll their production at the same time. Is it more random? Yes. But you'd be surprised that you still have plenty of options. The other thing is that instead of production happening at the end during phase 7, it happens in phase 2. So after you write your orders as normal on your dry erase boards, you'll roll for production. And it says disregard all resource tracking and trading. So you're going to roll a certain number of dice according to this chart in this scenario, and then you'll get bonus dice if you want. If you spend metals, you can add a die. So say you're normally rolling 4. If you're Italy, if you spend a metal, it will be rolling 5. And so let's grab a dice roller here. And so depending on what you get determines what you're able to produce. And that's where you look at this chart, which is pretty easy. For each yellow, blue, or green, you can deploy a land unit. If you roll a pair, there's air units of those particular colors. And if you roll 3 of a kind, you can deploy a ship. And you can do that in any combination. And so black results are wild and can be used as any color. And white results are also wild, but can only be used in combination with air or naval units. So they're not wild for land units. And you can only use 1 white result. So you couldn't have red, white, white to make a battleship. You could only use 1 white per unit being produced. So let's see what Italy rolled. They rolled 3 blue. So that means they could deploy a cruiser, or they could deploy 3 artillery. They rolled a single red, so that's going to be a miss and is useless. If they rolled 2 reds or red and a black, they could have chosen a bomber. And then they rolled 1 yellow. So Given that they rolled 3 blues, they'll be making a cruiser and a infantry. Now, oftentimes there's going to be less production using quick play, and that means the game will typically resolve faster since there's less build-up after depletion of units. So in the same manner, after everyone's rolled, you will deploy them and put them under industry tokens, as this would show. So for example, if they chose to deploy 3 artillery, you would put this in the relevant industry. The industry limits still apply. And then you would deploy them in the normal phase 5, just as usual. China is limited as normal to infantry and artillery if controlling an industrial territory. And they will deploy immediately again, same as the normal rolls. And the other special thing about China is that they can even deploy to command stacks that have orders. Next up is phase 3, and this is resolved as normal. Then there's phase 4, which it suggests using the quick battle rules. There are no raids in quick play mode, no convoy raids, neither transatlantic nor otherwise, and there's no garrison forces. So both of those things are pretty minor, but they add up to speed along the game. The other thing is that you'll be using these pegboards. So instead of tracking resources, since you roll for production instead of collecting different resources, you'll be tracking your casualties and stress on the back with these symbols shown here. I'll zoom in so you can see it up close. So this red burst is casualties, this yellow is stress, and the blue is production. So you can see that the US starts the global game rolling 10 dice for production. So during a battle, as units are lost, you start to gain casualty points, and instead of transferring the units to the casualty board, the casualty chart on this, you won't need this morale board at all, which will save a lot of table space, and you won't need these battle boards at all, which will also save a lot of table space. Instead, you'll be using these quick battle boards. You'll be tallying the casualty points. Now, there's a little chart down here where land units are 1, air units are 2, submarines or cruisers are worth 3, and carriers or battleships are worth 5. So that means for each, if I lost a battleship, I would move my red peg up to here. And if I lost, 3 land units and a fighter, I would be up to here. Let's say I lost 1 more land unit. And so that was the results of that battle. And you can use a white peg if you gain higher than 20 losses. So you'll be tracking your awards. Now you still get medals as usual. The only difference is that you'll gain 1 for each territory, but you gain 2 medals for each non-capital industry territory. And you'll gain 3 as usual for the capital. So the industry sites become particularly important in quick play mode. So then during phase 5, you'll do the refit and deploy. As normal, you'll deploy the units that you had under production. Nothing else changed there. And then during the morale phase, you'll convert your casualty points into stress points. Now normally you'd be tallying up your losses for the different types and using this chart at the top to convert into stress and moving along this stress board. But instead, you can use these boards, and for every 5, there's a little tick at each 5. For every 5 casualty points converts to 1 stress. So here I've got 11 casualty points, and any excess is just lost. So you always convert the entirety. Your casualty points don't carry over to the next game round. So after you've completed all your battles, your number will be somewhere along this chart, and I'm converting the 11 casualty points, bring this back down to 0, and that was 5, 10, 11, so that's 2 casualty points, 2 stress points. So I would go up 2. Now I might have gained a medal, and I can pay the medals to track my stress back down in the usual manner, like so. You'll notice that your thresholds are going to be the same, and these are marked on the map for the different scenarios. For the global, the US, it says G here. That's their threshold. So as soon as they reach 5 stress, they'll move up on the homeland status track. That's the chart, the wheel in the center of the map. And then if they do that, then they would go back to 0. Now here, any excess would carry over. So if they had 7 stress, gained 7 stress in a round, they passed their threshold, so they would drop down to 2 and maintain their leftover stress. Likewise, they can lose production as they move up the stress wheel. So if a nation is in the blue zone on the stress wheel, they will lose 1 PV. So if they started, the US will go down to 9. And if they enter the yellow, they'll lose 2. And that's if they advance further along the stress track, they won't lose any additional. That's only the first and second in which they're penalized. But this is why it's tracked on the pegboard, is because it can adjust over time. So they'll be rolling only 8. And this doesn't affect the US much, but for Italy, that would be a big deal. So that is a quick overview of the quick play rules. And again, it saves a significant amount of table space and a significant amount of time. On average, I'd guess about 30% faster, because you're not tallying up all the resources, you're not doing convoy raids, there's no garrisons, and production can all be simultaneous. And there's less production, so the game there'll be fewer units on the map to battle, and all of that can be done independently of combat. So you could play with the standard battle board with quick play, but usually they're played with the quick battle in addition to the quick play system. So now I'm going to talk about the quick battle. In this box for the quick battle kit, you'll get these 2 mats, one for the Axis and one for the Allied forces. Then you'll also get this fold-up little prism, which is just a player aid for sorting the dice during quick battle. You'll also get, as a little bonus, these 2 force advantage token reminders. So there's 2 included. They have a little black dot and a white dot to show that blacks and whites don't count when the enemy has force advantage. So there's a penalty for the Axis on the red side and a penalty for the blue on the flip side. And so if you could use these in the standard game, Put them here to remind you that one side or the other has force advantage. Or you can use them in the quick battle as well and put this little token nearby where you're rolling the dice to remind yourself which side has force advantage. This is the way the quick battle works. Each side will take a board, and 2 of these boards are included in the core game of the 2nd edition, but you might want more than one so you can resolve simultaneous battles. You'll need a dry erase pen, and these are just like the O&P dry erase boards. You can see they're kind of shiny. And I recommend ultra fine, not just fine, but ultra fine tip, and that way you will be able to, write in smaller boxes. So the first thing you do, instead of having to transfer your stacks of units from the map to the battle board and spreading them all out and choosing your stances, which takes a fair amount of time, which is interesting because you're making interesting choices here. But in the quick battle, it's streamlined such that you won't be making any stance choices except for the bomber, which is choosing whether or not to bomb or not. So instead of moving the actual units, you keep the units on the board in their stacks, but you tally them up, and with a dry erase pen, write down in the appropriate column. So for example, if the US brought 3 artillery, you would write 3 here. And you tally up how many of each type of unit each nation brought to the battle, because there might be a case where there's multiple allies fighting on the same side. And then you'll multiply the number of units times the combat value. These numbers are a little bit different than the numbers on the battle board. But again, first you'll be resolving the air stage and then the land stage. So you can see these round numbers represent air combat values and the square ones represent land combat values, just like the standard game. So once you've multiplied out the number of units times their combat value, you'll then tally this all up and come with a total. And you can break that down into the number of batches of dice. So you can roll up to 3 batches, just like the standard battle. And so it would be 10, 10, 4 if you had 24 dice total. And then you would roll them. So let's say for a batch, let's roll these. And if you were resolving the land stage, you would flip this to the appropriate target that you were firing at. If it was the air stage, you would use this side. If you were having a naval battle, you would use this side. So let's resolve a land stage, for example. And you reveal the dice. And you can use this chart. You don't have to, but some people just look at the dice and quickly tally it up. But if you're just starting out, you might want to arrange the dice before each of these colors to help identify what you're doing. So you can sort them like this. Experts will just, one glance and they'll know exactly what's happening. But this is helpful for beginners. So the difference with the standard combat, each of these hits is going to cause a unit to move 1 space down the track until it's eliminated. Now, in quick battle, there is no partial damage. There is none of this half damage stage. It's either you're alive or you're dead. But to compensate for that, you need pairs in order to eliminate a unit. So in order to eliminate 1 infantry, you need a pair of yellows. So these 2 yellows would eliminate that 1 infantry. These 2 blues would eliminate 1 artillery, and these 2 greens would eliminate 1 armor unit. and the red would be wasted in a land battle. There's a black and white here, and force advantage still applies to quick battles. So keep that in mind. And you can notate it here. Here's a little box to notate force advantage. And you will tally the number of hits. You can draw little slashes for each hit to keep track if you're rolling multiple rounds. And then you will simply remove them directly from the map when the battle's over. And again, instead of transferring them to the morale board, if you're using quick play, you would simply put them back in storage and track the casualties here on your pegboard. So there are some other little details here. There's a space to write down which nation is the commander and where the battle is taking place, just for details. I had mentioned that there's a separate stance for strategic bombing. You'll be resolving those normally by rolling 4 dice per bomber, each in batches of 4. On the flip side is naval battles. There's still the submarine. Here's for the nano expansion rules. There's the dive ability of submarines. There's still port advantage. And for the capital ships, instead of needing 2 hits, you need 3 hits. That's what these 3 little dots are for. Now, as far as the pairing goes, you can see that for the wilds, a black and a white work, and 2 blacks and a green work, but you can't have 2 whites and a green or 2 whites and a black. A pair of whites is not allowed when assigning damage to a single unit. Again, here 2 whites will not eliminate a unit, but you need to pair it up with a color or a wild. Now blacks you can pair with themselves. There's some other little details in that the cruiser escort stance does not apply in quick battle, and however, the submarines are still invulnerable to white hits. So that's a quick overview of the quick battle. There was another previous video, but we've had made some slight changes since then. These rules are available on our website. If you go to nightingalegames.com, there's a page that's called Rules, and you can download a PDF of the rules and see this and try it out for yourself. I haven't, gone over every little detail, but there are some other rules, such as the batch cap, which is a little more advanced, but it's a side with 1 fewer type, can roll fewer batches. So I'm not going to go into that in this video, but it does apply in quick battle as well as in the standard game. So that's it for quick battle overview again, and quick play overview. Again, if you have any questions, you can go on Board Game Geek or on our own forum on our website, or just ask a question to warroombulletin@gmail.com. The Quick Battle Kit, as of the end of January, is still available for pre-order. We may, if we run out, they won't be available anymore, obviously. So the estimated time for delivery is June 2022, along with the rest of the extras in the core game. There'll be another video, which we'll link to below, detailing the other extras, such as command stabs and the sand timer. This also helps move the game along, which you would use during the strategic planning phase. This is a 10-minute sand timer. It means hurry up and let's finish our orders. No more discussions allowed. I'll just show a quick glance of some of the other extras. Here's the folio and the dry erase OMP charts. Got the extra card holders if you need more of those. And of course there's the extra bits kit, which comes with the dice cups. I can show you the box for that. The High Five kit comes in a box like this, and you'll get a pair of these dice rollers and a bunch of extra tokens. And there's the unit storage box. I don't know what that is, smudge. But I'll end this video for now. I'll do a more detailed recap of the extras in a later video. Thanks, and we post updates on the 1st of every month on the Kickstarter update page. Thanks, bye.